So let's get started. Everyone can still hear me from over here, right?
Yep.
Not too bright with the light.
It's all good, dude.
It's all good? Okay.
Yeah, when it comes to light, too bright's a lot better than too dark.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the very first thing I'm going to show y'all because it's probably the most important thing. It's going to be a little journal. Let's see if I can get it to show on the camera without being too reflective. Just something that y'all can write in whenever y'all do mead. Goes like a long ass way. Especially like whenever you're doing any sort of like taking notes or anything, it goes really far. So some things I wrote down for tonight before we get started. I wanted to ask some questions here. How many of y'all have drank mead? 1, 2. No?
Count me in.
Never? Never?
Never.
All right. That's not a problem. This is good here. This is kind of what we're starting at, kind of like a what is mead sort of deal. So for those of you that haven't had it, do you know what goes into mead?
Honey, water, yeast.
That's right. That's it. There are other things that you can add into the meads, and it kind of changes what it's called, but we can get into that later. But basically, like just a traditional sack mead, exactly what Red said, just honey, water, yeast. A couple of fun facts I wanted to read out here to everyone. Has anyone read the Pros Edda at any point or form?
Yeah.
Okay, got 2 nods. All right. So one of the things in the Pros Edda that it mentions is the mead of poetry. So this is kind of how revered mead was back in the olden days, that it got put down into the Pros Edda that the gods from their spittle created a man in their shape. Now, I'm going to butcher his name, but I believe it's pronounced Kvasir. It's Kvasir. If anyone knows how to pronounce English words, if anyone knows how to pronounce that correctly. But
I've always heard Kavasir.
Say that again?
I've always heard it as Kavasir.
Atmosphere? I like that. Sounds better than Silver. So Cavasphere, he traveled around the world spreading wisdom to man because he was the wisest of all. He was made from the gods. And one day he came across 2 dwarfs. Don't remember one of their names. The other one's name was Soon. The 2 dwarfs killed him, drained his blood, and mixed it with honey, and they made the mead of poetry. And from the mead of poetry, anyone that drank it would gain the powers of a skald, telling songs, playing music, instruments. It was a really big deal. It was written down and had stories and epics told about it. So whenever we make mead, it's not just simply as making an alcoholic beverage. For some, to anyone who wants it to, it can be a way to like connect to the gods, the ancestors. It's something that's very powerful. There's a type of mead called a metheglin. You can add herbs and spices to it. You can use it as kind of like Tylenol almost. You know, they used to make tonics back in the day that would be so bitter that they would mix it in with mead and basically potion, you know? So, I mean, there's a lot of cool things that have been done with mead, a lot of stories. I greatly encourage everyone to look into it because, I mean, mead is just so much cooler than just a drink. All right. Y'all want to know a little fun fact about honey?
Always.
Honey is acidic. Very acidic. 3.9. It's almost like lemon juice, all those kind of citrus juices, it's down there. But it's got so much sugar in it that it masks the acidity completely. Different honeys that come from different things, like say wildflowers, orange blossoms, huisach trees, if anyone's in South Texas. Every single different honey that you use will produce a different mead. So if you make one honey with vanilla added in, and you make a mead for that year, and then you make another mead with a different honey, even though it's got vanilla, it's going to taste different than the first one you made because the honey actually changes the overall flavor of it all. And it's very strong, and you can notice, you can tell. So that's something that's really cool. You okay? Oh, man. I got one more fun fact. So, mead has been like officially linked back to 7,000 BC in China. It makes it one of the oldest drinks on the planet. And I've seen kind of like essays and paleoanthropology, things like that, looking back into the past up to 10 to 15,000 years BC of tribes in Africa making mead that just ferments inside the beehive, and they could collect the water out of the beehive, and it would have fermented naturally from airborne yeast that just flew around. So mead has been a favorite for a long time. So when it stands up there on the snuff, it's pretty high up there. And I'm really happy to see it kind of coming back, as I started making mead like just at the cusp of it becoming cool again. You know, like when I first started making mead, you couldn't buy it anywhere. And now you go down to Specs, since we're all in Texas, and you can find like, or not, maybe not all in Texas. Oh yeah, that's right, you're not in Texas.
Oh, no, I'm in Texas. I'm just West Texas. Far West Texas.
Far West?
Sweetwater, Texas. 45 minutes.
Yeah, he's out in the
Dry
desert.
count.
You're way out there, man.
Very few heathens around here. Trust me, I know.
I believe it. I feel like I'm the only heathen in my town. Well, maybe not for everyone. I don't know, Nicole. There might be a Specs there. I don't know if it's just Texas. But
No,
there isn't any, or it's not just Texas?
no, just not here. Not where I
Okay.
live.
Well, Specs, it's like this kind of, I guess, the Walmart of alcoholic beverages. They sell mead now, and it's the only place I can find mead in a store. Can't find it at just liquor corner store or anything like that.
Twin Liquors is carrying it now too.
Quinn Liquors. Thank you, Eric. That's a good one. So let me just go over my notes real quick. 7 back BC. All right. So now we're going to move into the class. Now, I know I'm the only one doing it, but I kind of set it up for people to move along with me, so I'll try to adapt since I'm the only one doing it now. If y'all can't see me while I'm working, just let me know, and I can kind of shift the laptop around or anything like that, but I'll kind of work from the side. Now, I'm going to bring everything over first. Those of you that are in Texas and have an HEB, Nicole, I'm sorry. HEB carries this brand of honey called Good Flow. It's backwards. It's pure wildflower honey, and Good Flow comes from Austin, so you might be able to source it here in Texas, kind of maybe West Texas, depending on if you got an HEB out there. But the big thing when you're making honey, or when you're getting honey for mead, is you want to look on the back. It's probably going to be backwards again, but it says pure unpasteurized honey. And you want to look for those words whenever you're making mead, because for me, you can buy cheap meat or cheap honey that's been pasteurized, that's been filtered, it's got everything taken out of it. But in my mind, since I'm kind of like wanting to do as much traditional mead making as I possibly can, that kind of kills it for me, because when it's been pasteurized, that means the honey has been heated so high that it's about 140, 150 degrees, that the honey starts to kind of lose its essence. it starts to taste a little different because everything that goes into it, aside from just the honey, like the pollen, anything else that's gone into it, kind of gets boiled out. And so you start to lose a little bit of the honey essence. I like to look for pure or raw in my honey because, again, I don't mind having a bee leg in my honey every once in a while. To me, I think of it as extra flavor. For this class, I've decided to use the wildflower honey because I usually use the Huisach honey. It comes from southwest Texas, so I don't know if you have them out where you are, Red, but they have this really nice, beautiful flower, and I get it from, oh man, what's their name? It's something Blood Honey Farm in southwest Texas. Youngblood, thank you. My assistant over there. Youngblood Honey. And I usually source all my honey for my mead from them because it's kind of like a local Texas thing. But their honey has won several mead competitions, so it's a very good base for mead. But Wildflower, Huisach, Orange Blossom, they're all very good. I know if you look at Amazon.com, what was it, Christina, that you found on Amazon? If she's still there.
There was a honey we found. I'll find it and I'll post it in the group later. I don't remember what it was called. It was I want to say it was 10 gallons of honey for like $35. It was something ridiculous. And when I went to Walmart, we had, I think, 3 gallons for $35.
All right, so yeah, so 10-pound honey on Amazon, $30. That's actually pretty cheap. It looked like a good buy when I looked at it. I'm pretty sure it said like raw and unpasteurized, and it was from Texas. So whenever you buy your honey, you kind of want to look for those things. A warning: whenever you buy store-bought clover honey can be blended with 60% other honeys and still be called clover. So when you buy clover honey, it might not be pure clover honey. So that's something to kind of look out for whenever you go shopping for this stuff. Honey festivals or bee festivals are really good places to get honey too. But here it is again. I know it's backwards, but it's good flow. It's from Austin. It's what I'm using. It's pretty good.
I have a question about the honey.
Yeah, ask.
I have a friend who's an apiarist, and I was just wondering, I was just going to get the honey from him directly, but does it like have to go through a process or something before you can use it?
No, actually, it's probably best if it doesn't. Normally, what beekeepers will do with the honey before they ship it out, they'll run it through a fine screen, and what it does is it takes out like the wings and everything else. So when you're buying like store-bought honey, it's going to have a little bit of that when it says pure or raw, but not a lot. It'll usually always get screened first. So whenever you get it from your friend, it'll probably be screened. If not, if it's got some wings or legs in there, I mean, like I said, it's just a little extra.
Through a cheesecloth first. If you could go over and get it and pour it through a cheesecloth, it filters out any kind, like he was saying, bee particles and or clumps of honeycomb itself, so you're not crunching while drinking.
Yeah.
Well, I have plenty of cheesecloth because I make my own oil and tonic anyway, so that'll be fine.
Well, cool. Any other questions about honey before I move on? Sounds good. And this is for this class. We went all cheap. Walmart store-bought costs for, well, HEB for me. It's going to be backwards again. But Fleischmann's Active Dry Yeast. Right here.
It hasn't been backwards once.
It's not. It's backwards when I look at it.
Looks good to us.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad. So just 2 tablespoons of this will go into the jug back there. You may or may not see it. No, let me turn off this light. It's super bright. You also see, or is it too dark now?
You're fine.
All right. So you can buy it in the packet, and 1 packet is exactly the amount you need for this recipe. They usually come in 3 packets for the price of 1 kind of thing. Don't forget to mute the mic. That's my wife down there. So I gotta think about where I was. Oh yeah. Anyways, 2 tablespoons of this stuff. If you buy it in kind of like this, if you're planning to make a lot of mead, just 2 tablespoons, like flat. You don't want to go over, because if you put too much yeast in there, you're gonna end up kind of. Eric will say this is fine. You can end up with a dry mead that's really potent if you put too much yeast in there. And also, you can kill off the mead early before it's done fermenting, and that can kind of throw off the taste of the mead. You can get kind of like a sulfur taste to it, and a smell too. Eric, have you ever had that before?
No, I've never seen it, but I haven't done a lot of it myself. So
I've seen it. I don't know if y'all can see it. That one right there, that's got more meat in it. That one had a little bit of a sulfur smell to it. Not a taste, but a smell, because I put too much yeast in it. I've had to rack it once or twice, and the smell has come off, and taste was never compromised, so I feel like I kind of got lucky. So just like a warning to everyone out there.
was it with the Fleischmann's or with?
That was with
yeast.
That's a good question. No, I was using Lalvin 71B sweet mead yeast, I think. I bought it from northernbrewer.com, and it's yeast that's been made specifically for making a sweet mead. And I put in 1 packet was for 5 gallons, and I didn't pay attention, and I put the whole packet in a 1-gallon carboy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of my meads are extremely potent. They're looking at about 23% ABV. So they're pretty strong. They're pretty high up there. And they are kind of bittersweet right now. I got a vanilla. The vanilla is the full one. The cinnamon is the half-empty one. And then I have a 5-gallon carboy of a sack mead, which is just traditional. And they are kind of like rocket fuel right now because I put too much yeast in them. They don't taste bad. They smell like they have alcohol in them. They taste like it has alcohol in it. And it's got nice, dry, bitter taste of honey in it. So if this ever happens,
I might love it.
You would love it. I'm actually going to leave the vanilla mead alone. I'm not going to back sweeten it, so that way you can sit there and enjoy your nice dry mead. I'm going to back sweeten the cinnamon and the sack because fermentation is stopped a long time ago, and I want to bring the sweetness up on it. But I'll go over that with y'all later. But from my long-winded story, don't put too much of this in there. Always double check your measurements. Make sure you got going what you need to get going. Anyone have any questions? I don't know if y'all muted mics on your own or if Christina or the host did that.
My internet's very unstable, so I threw you the host because I keep getting knocked in and out.
Okay. So I'm not muting people. They're doing it on their own.
Yeah, that way we can listen without snorting, farting, whatever, and wait with the mic. I mean, come on.
Right on. Okay, cool. This is the next thing. I'm sure everyone's seen one of these. You've never seen one? All right. So when you're making your mead, you want to try and use spring water that hasn't had fluoride thrown into it by the city or any other water provider you have. As kind of chemical free as you can go. Reverse osmosis water works too. I live in the country, so I have well water. So I use my well water for my mead because I've had my water tested. I know it's pure. I know it's clean. It's got a lot of calcium in it, but that's about it. It won't affect your mead. So if y'all live on a well, if you've already had it, I'm sure you've had it tested for anything before you started drinking it. But you can test your water for the pH, and you can kind of see what your water's at before you put it into mead. I've been on forums and talked with people before that get really intense with their water. But if you kind of want to go the path I'm going, where you want to be kind of traditionalist, kind of do it how it's always been done, you don't have to worry about too much. Just my water doesn't get chlorinated, it doesn't get fluoride, it doesn't get anything. It just goes through the well, goes through its little filter, and then we drink it, and it goes in my mead. If you don't have the option of well water, spring water works. I know some stores carry reverse osmosis water. That's pretty interesting. I haven't made any mead with it, but from what I've read online, it's a pretty good alternative for traditionalists. It's a little bit more expensive, but it kind of removes all impurities and just leaves pure H2O, kind of like what you would get if you were to go to like Iceland and get water that gets filtered through the lava rocks in the springs and things like that. You don't get that calcium, but you don't get any of that chemical human sciencey goodness in your water.
Questions?
Answers, hopefully.
Well, Red was asking over in the chat, does the well water mess with the taste? I said it shouldn't, but it might affect clarity, and that's my question. Since you're working with
I didn't have that open.
Does that affect clarity?
No, I haven't found it to affect the clarity in my meads at all. I'll pour some out that I got here in a little bit so you can see it. I'll put it in a clear glass. The meads, when they're in my carboys, they look like they could be a little muddy. But as soon as I get them out of the carboys and I put them into a cup for tasting, the color changes and the taste changes. Not the taste, the clarity changes. Let me go back over here. My big jug of brewer's yeast, the size of my head, $14. Ooh, let's see what that is. Here I am in class and I'm shopping.
And I've got the links copied into a document, so whenever I upload the video, the links will also be in the description.
That looks cool. GMO free. I like that. Yeah, that should do fine. That's great. The well water does not mess with the taste, so I've noticed. You have a question. You can turn on your mic if you have a question so everyone else can hear it. Are you gonna say it? What about it? So Vivian asked me if people should use distilled water. I have always found that distilled water has a different taste. Does anyone know how distilling works?
Yeah, it's just basically boiling it, right?
The internet cut out a little bit. Say that again.
It's just basically boiling it, right?
Kind of. Distilled water, if they're doing it like a true distillery, it's going to be boiled and the vapors are going to go through a series of tubes and then it will recondense and be dropped into a new container. So when you're getting distilled water, it's gone through that process. Ooh, kitty cat. It's gone through that process to kind of remove impurities, and I've found that it's changed taste for me. which, while we're on the topic of distilling, you cannot distill mead. It is illegal. If anyone finds out that's of authority, you can get in trouble for that because distilling is mostly illegal. I know some people can do it, but I think they have to jump through hoops for it.
If I remember right, you're allowed to distill a certain amount for personal use.
10 gallons a year per personal use.
What does
All right.
distilling it do?
It increases the percentage of alcohol in the final product.
By a lot.
Basically, it turns it from a wine into a whiskey.
Basically, moonshining.
Well, now that I know I can do that up to 10
You're gonna
gallons
teach
a
us
year,
how to distill too, right?
let me get some equipment and then I'll teach everyone how to
Dude, you
do
and I
it.
need to talk privately. Do be aware that stills blow up.
Yeah,
Always operate them in a well-ventilated area.
I have never looked into distilling because I thought it was completely illegal. But if it's legal to do 10 gallons, I'm going to try that.
Well, I won't talk about legality of it. You do some research. You're allowed by federal law to have 10 gallons a year for your own use. The equipment laws about stills, however, are kind of weird. So
look into it.
yeah, I've done a little bit of research, and the joke is my great uncle retired when he quit getting 35 gallons to the acre because he was an old moonshiner. But
That's another deal. If you do distill, you want to do it out in the country. Doing it inside town with the amount of equipment and amount of fire you're going to always have to keep to it, it's going to raise some eyebrows. Not to mention, if it does blow out, you don't want your neighbors that pissed off at you.
Well, I live on 40 acres in the country, so I think my neighbors won't mind. Because I say I'm on 40 acres, but my house is here, and like 200 feet, there's a neighbor's house over there. So hopefully they won't mind. What are you drinking, Red?
Drinking Pearl beer.
Right on. You get thumbs of approval. All right. Next thing. So I see someone has brewing yeast, so they may be familiar with this. Let me get it close so the little glare will stop. Can y'all see that? All right. So this is Easy Clean No Rinse Powdered Cleanser by L.D. Carlson. So I found when sanitizing equipment, because that's what that is, it's a sanitizer, using bleach can be used to kind of clean and sanitize your equipment because you want to sanitize anything that's going to touch the mead. I've always been a little paranoid about using bleach because if I use too much or anything like that, I'm worried it'll get into my mead. Especially when I use like my racking cane. What that is, it's a long cane and it goes directly into the mead and you pump it and it pumps all the fluid out into the bottles. I've always been a little paranoid when cleaning it with bleach that I'm going to get bleach aftertaste. So what I bought, and you don't have to buy this, but if you want to get serious with mead making, you probably want to. I think this was like 15 bucks. 1 tablespoon per 1 gallon of warm water. You leave it in there for about 10-15 minutes, and it'll sanitize everything so much better than bleach will. This is food grade cleanser. It's going to sanitize everything. You don't have to worry about any taste, nothing at all like that. So this goes hard. It's Viking sanitizer. Also, I understand correctly, this can catch on fire too. So you kind of want to keep it safe. I don't know if it's this one or my other chemical that catches on fire. I don't remember. I'm reading the warning. Avoid contact with eyes, skin, and clothing. Harmful if swallowed. Avoid breathing dust. It's got on the front label, underneath their name, the emergency response number. It'll give you kind of a standard operating procedure if you have any mistakes with this. So definitely keep it out of reach of children if you got any, or pets, because sometimes pets can get in this stuff too.
Or
But-
dumb people.
Or what?
Or
Just
dumb
listen-
people.
Or that. Or Ewoks or Jawas.
Hey, I'm the one who was sitting here thinking, hey, I can't quite read this. Let me hold it closer to the fire to see what the letters are.
Ah.
Maybe we should get that for Seth for Yule.
I used to work for a pool company, so I know all about that stuff. Anyways, sanitization is super, super important. You're just coming over here? Okay. What are you doing? She's taking pictures of me. Sanitization is super important. You don't want anything rogue to get into it. While I am kind of a traditionalist, I want to do it as old ways as possible. I do want my mead to be kind of pure as I can. So keeping to the traditional ways, not heating it or anything like that, using raw and pasteurized honey. You want to kind of try and make as pure a product as you can. I feel like it's the best way we can kind of honor the traditions of the past while keeping to the safety of today. So
Improper sanitation also can ruin the taste of the mead. If you get the wrong yeasts and bacteria in there, your mead's done.
thank you for that, Eric. That totally skipped over my mind, actually. Yeah, rogue yeast. I read an interesting story, and this was supposedly came out of a Christian monk abbey manuscript from like the 1500s. I read this in one of my mead books, which I lost, but Vivian, can you find that mead book? It's on Northern Brewer. I want to be able to give it to the class after I'm done. That mead, when it used to be made using wild yeast that was airborne, it could kill the infirm and elderly if they were to drink it, because the rogue yeast would just make something so, no, I don't want to say toxic because it wouldn't kill the average man, but it would basically ruin the elderly or the infirm. So sanitization is important. Just like Eric said, you don't want to get rogue yeast in there. It can give you a wild, weird taste. Just like putting too much yeast can give you kind of like a sulfur backlash. Any questions about sanitizer, bleach, or anything like that before I move on to, I think, our final ingredient? Okay. This is the final ingredient for our HEB/Walmart mead. Balloons. I'm serious now. That
I have a
jug.
question.
Okay, ask.
You don't have balloons. Will condoms work?
In theory, I believe a
Yeah.
condom would work. Yes.
All
All
be
you're
careful
really.
of the lube contaminating the mead, though.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So you
I
got
have
to
two
be
kids,
careful
I don't
about
use them,
if
I
it's a
forgot.
flavored condom, right?
You could use a balloon for one. Just kidding. Yeah, you couldn't. Too much lube and stuff. No, the balloon, you're going to take a tiny thumbtack and you're going to prick a hole in the top of the balloon. And after you've done everything, the last and final step is taking the balloon and putting the lip of it around the lid of the jug. So it's going to, when it starts fermenting, it's going to release CO2. And so it's going to catch all that gas, and it's going to be able to release the gas without exposing your mead to any airborne contaminants. I can tell y'all, if you ever have flies or gnats in your house, and we've all had them at least once, they love mead. They will go crazy over mead. Yes, just the tip. You don't want to take it down the shaft. That's way too much. Hands off. That's a good one. Mead and fun. Who says class is boring? But yeah, because as the gas is releasing from the mead, it's going to create like this little seal where it's always going to be coming out, so you won't have to worry about anything getting back in. So that's the purpose of the balloon. If you were to ever upgrade your process, this is what you would use. Mine's a little dusty because it's been sitting there for 3 months. This is mead that's been going since last year. So it's a glass gallon carboy. It's got the stopper right here around the. Go ahead.
Is the carboy the bottle that you put it in?
Yes and no. At the moment, it is. I would like to eventually put them into its own bottles for our Ostara camping event. Because this unfortunately doesn't have a nice way to pour it out. I mean, I guess I could just open it and pour it. Get a normal stopper. I could use it as a bottle, and so could you. It's very likely. It's very possible. I'm using it as just kind of like a fermentation case, since I will be adding honey to it. If there is any yeast in there that'll ferment, which I doubt. But I've read online that adding honey can cause carbonation to occur. I'm not quite sure why the fermentation has stopped. Maybe Eric can put in some info or insight for that.
Adding honey can cause your carbonation, cause you to get a sparkling wine.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, you also add just a tiny bit of yeast at the same time, but that's how champagne's made and a few other things.
Yeah.
And the other thing about using the fermentation carboy is the bottle. There's usually some sediment in the bottom that isn't there when you rack it out into a bottle. You're careful to not suck that out. So it beats drinking it down because that's basically yeast poop.
Yep. Did you catch that, Christina? All right. So what are you saying? Instead of using the fermentation,
I gotta go.
What?
I gotta go take Granny to the hospital. So I will catch up with this after.
All right. We'll probably still be here later.
Okay. I'll see y'all later.
So yeah, the little yeast poop at the bottom, I've heard it be called lees. I've heard it just be called yeast poop. I've heard it be called cake. You will get it in your jug when you make your mead. It can change the taste of the mead if you leave it in there for too long. But don't be alarmed when you see it. It's normal. It happens every time. It's just a product of the yeast. Do you have a question, Nicole? No? Okay. So continuing on, you have the stopper here. And then up here, this is called the airlock. It's a 3-piece airlock. It has a little container in it to trap like water. You can use water or vodka or anything else you want. And it kind of creates literally an airlock where CO2 can build up inside this inner piece and it'll exude the gas like the balloon would. But it doesn't let anything get in because it's filled with water. It's a one-way ticket, and it's from the outside in.
I hear a lot of people like to fill it with either vodka or like Everclear, something stout but edible or drinkable, however you want to have it.
Yeah.
As an extra barrier.
Yeah, because it's supposed to like sanitize in case something were to get in. I've read stories where flies have gotten into airlocks before because the cap wasn't on all the way. I don't know how insects get in there, but they managed to do it. Do I have anything else? Nope, I don't think so. I think I'm gonna
Are you going to show us how to mix it?
What's that?
Are you going to show us how to mix it?
I am going to show y'all how to do this. I did this with my first batch of mead. I got it from stormthecastle.com. I'll add that link in there. Y'all get to watch me type. So stormthecastle.com. It has. Oh, hello, C. I didn't see you.
Hi, I was muted. I came really late. I'm sorry I got stuck in the rain in my garden. But please go on. This is fascinating.
That's right. When we're done and I release everyone, if you want to stick around, I'll go over it again with you.
Thanks.
Anyways, stormthecastle.com. It has lots of recipes on it. It has lots of kind of how-tos. It's got recommendations for 5-gallon meads, sweet meads, dry meads, traditionals, millimols, hydromals, methaglins. It's got kind of all that stuff in there for it. It's a good website. I recommend it. I get a lot of information from there still to this day. It's a very good website, and I do eventually intend to send this guy my pictures of my mead because he always asks for people to send in pictures of their mead. So it's something to do. I'm using a twist off of his tutorial. And his tutorial calls for honey, oranges, raisins, things like that. I found that doing it just like this made an excellent batch of mead. So that's kind of what I'm sharing with y'all here today, kind of my experience and what I took from it. And we're going to get started. So one of the first things, here, let me see. You think I should move the laptop over here so that they can see while I do this? I think I should. I'm going to do it. Y'all get to see the rest of my kitchen. Slide on because it's dark in this corner when I'm in front of the light. Can y'all see everything all right?
Yep.
All right. So what I've got over here, a nice, clean, sanitized bowl. I'm going to take a little bit of my not Star San, Easy Clean over here. I'm going to take kind of like a fourth of a tablespoon, very little of it. I'm going to put it in this bowl with some warm water. And I'm going to put my tablespoon that I just used in there because I want to sanitize it before I touch the yeast because I don't want to get anything extra into my yeast or into the meat at all. And if y'all have questions, feel free to unmute your mics and speak up because I can't quite see y'all because I have the laptop face down. You want to make sure you use warm water when you use your sanitizer. Regardless of whether you use bleach or not, it needs to be warm. Kind of helps. So I put in my cleaner. It's in the bottom. I'm going to go over here to my sink where you can't see me because I like to hide. Just add water.
Jen says we'll believe you this once. You actually do have a sink.
I can't hear you, but Vivian laughs, so I think it's funny. I'm I'm going to use my tablespoon here to stir it up a little bit. All right. I'm going to let that sit for a couple minutes. Next thing we would do, if anyone was doing this with me, we're going to take our jug and we're going to open it. Now, when we add our honey, it's going to displace some of this water. So I'm going to go ahead and pour some of this water out, probably to about right here where this little kind of edge starts that goes all the way around the carton. I'm going to empty it from there. I'm going to add the first bottle of honey. And if I need to release more water, I'll do that there. But I'm going to start with this for right now. And again, going off camera. And this can all be done while that's sanitizing. So you can sit here and you can pour it through that little tiny hole if you want. Or you can be a Viking and just rip it all open and pour it out. Arrgh! There we go. I'm going to start putting in the honey. Can y'all see it?
Mm-hmm.
See how the color of the honey changes once it's out of the bottle and it's kind of thin and it's nice and yellow? That's going to be about the color of your mead once it's done. Look at that. I haven't even put in half a bottle and the water's all the way up at the top again. So we're going to take a little bit more water out. Honey, while a liquid, kind of, displaces a lot of water. Y'all should have seen me when I did my 5-gallon batch. You load up a fermentation jug with 4 gallons of water, and then you start adding 18 pounds of honey. And then you gotta drag 5 gallons of water over to a sink and dump it out a little bit without losing all your honey. That was not fun. Anyone here know how much 5 gallons of water weighs?
I know 1 gallon weighs 8 pounds, so 8 times 5.
There you go. Stuff's heavy, and it's real big and bulky. All right.
So, just a quick question: would it be easier to add the honey than the water, or?
I haven't done that, and I haven't seen people do it, just because it kind of helps the honey settle in the bottom. But that's a thought. I haven't tried it. If you wanted to, you could, and let me know how it goes. I'm going to take some more water out because I'm not even halfway through that pound. I don't think I told you how many pounds of honey I'm using. I am using 3 pounds of honey because I am wanting to make a sweet mead. Because since we're using bread yeast for this, the alcohol is only going to get to be probably about 10–11% before it starts to die off, because the yeast doesn't have a high alcohol tolerance. I'm going to take a little bit more water out.
Have you ever warmed your honey to get it to mix with the water?
I have before. I had some wildflower honey that was really thick, and I've done it then. But I normally avoid heating the honey at all costs. Some people will take the must, the honey and the water, and they'll heat it up and boil it and then add the yeast in. There's nothing wrong with it for people that do that, or if y'all want to do that, but I just don't do it myself. I like to kind of stay traditional, and that's not to say any other way is bad, because it's not what I'm saying, but you get what I mean.
You lose a lot of the benefits of the raw honey if you heat it up beyond a certain point. But
yeah, I think it's 140 degrees that you start to lose it.
Up to 120, you can warm it if you're very careful about how you do it. and it'll cause the honey to flow a lot better, and it mixes with water a lot better. But that's how you put water into the honey if you have to.
Yep. What I've done is I took a pot and filled it with water, and I used my thermometer to get it to about 100 degrees, and I let my honey sit in it until it got nice and loose. I don't mind that I'm not using exactly 3 pounds of honey. As long as I get it kind of like this, I'm happy. This one needs to go back down, so, you know, go back over it and do it again. You know, it's not about being quick or anything like that. It's kind of like a process of love. It's kind of like making love. As Christina was pointing out, just the tip. Got a couple
Someone
laps.
unleashed a monster.
The one-eyed purple people eater. Now what I'm going to do with these little things of honey is I'm going to flip them upside down with their caps back on, and I'm just going to mac on it. Yeah. It's you know how there's a commercial for whiskey, the Devil's Cut? Well, this is the Hydromus cut. It's so good. I love wildflower honey. All right. It hasn't been exactly 15 minutes, but since it's a concentrated amount, I'm going to use it now. Just take that, kind of air dry it. I don't want to touch it with a paper towel where it's going to be touching the yeast. I kind of just want to air dry it. Now, I did a whole bunch of math earlier. You're going to hear a joke here. A whole bunch of math earlier to find out that 0.75 ounces of yeast is 2 tablespoons. I don't know if y'all can see this. Can y'all see inside?
Yep.
The yeast comes in these little tiny balls that are kind of like sugar enriched. So that way when they hit water, they'll activate and they'll kind of eat their way out. They use this process in several other industries. They use it in the pool industry for getting rid of algae. You can actually activate yeast with a little bit of sugar and some warm water, and you can stir it up. I don't know if Lofruna, am I saying that right? Awesome. If you've made beer, I'm sure you've had to heat up yeast and stir it and everything before adding it to the wort and doing all that good fun stuff. So I'm just going to go in here, take this. See this right here? It's 1 tablespoon. So I'm just going to gently pour it into the top there. Oh no, it's not sinking. I didn't have this problem last time I did this. That sucks. That's great. Hey guys, it's not sinking, man. What do I do? Oh no. I've already touched the other end, so I can't pack it in there. So you know what I'm gonna do? We're gonna shake this anyways. I'm gonna put the cap back on it. I'm gonna flip this upside down real quick. There we go. It's coming loose now. And it's loose. And then it's back up at the top. Sink, damn it. There you go. Now that I'm doing this, 2 tablespoons seems to be a little much from a packet. So I'm going to do 1.5 tablespoons. And you got to resist the urge not to touch it on the inside, because I got that urge right now to just stick my finger in it. Don't do it. You can't put your fingers in the sanitizer to clean them. It hurts. I've tried. All right. We're done with that, so I can put that down my tablespoon. And now y'all get to watch my boobs jiggle. So you take it over here, and we're going to shake this for about 5 minutes. Kind of get a good stir going on it. Do a whole bunch of stuff. Shaking it is kind of like the equivalent of stirring the yeast after you would have activated it with liquid and everything. And this is kind of that process, but if you're cheap and you're using bread yeast, it's kind of like the next best step. And that was the purpose of this class. Teach people how to make mead on a budget. And we're shaking. If y'all want to unmute your mics and talk right now, this would be a good time because I'm just going to be shaking it right here. And as much as some of y'all would like to, talking to myself for 5 minutes might make me feel a little crazy.
Well, a quick question, if I may. Exactly how long do you let it sit before it's fermented to where it's got actual alcohol to you could drink it?
Good question. So when you put the balloon on top of it after we're done with this step, what's going to happen is that balloon is going to completely inflate and it's going to start releasing it. It's going to look like it's going to come off, but it won't. But you can put a rubber band on it just in case. I'm going to. When fermentation stops, the balloon will deflate. And that's when you know it's done. And that's when you can have your first sip and try it and see how you like it and how it tastes.
All right. Would the temperature of the room that you store it have any effect with how it ferments as well? Like
yes.
Inside or cold or anything?
Yes, it does affect it. Since we're not, I mean, I don't want to say disregard it. We're using cheaper ingredients, so it won't make that much difference. But if you really want to, keep it somewhere between, I'd probably say 70 and 76 degrees.
Room temperature, more or less, correct?
What's that?
Room temperature, more or less?
Room temperature, more or less. You don't have to do anything crazy like put it in the fridge. You don't want to get it too cold. You don't want to get it too hot.
Do you put yours in a dark place?
In a dark place. You don't want to let the sun get on it. The sun can affect the yeast. So you want to leave it somewhere dark. For me, where I'm going to put it, I got a little liquor cabinet up above my fridge where I keep the rest of my mead and my whiskey and my tequila and my moonshine and my Everclear. I'm just kidding. But where I keep the rest of my stuff, and it's dark and it hardly ever gets open, so I'm going to leave it in there.
Now, can you let it sit too long to a point that it goes bad?
That comes kind of back around to what Eric said earlier. If you leave it in the fermentation jug for too long, what's going to happen is you're going to get lees, and that's the yeast poop. And the yeast poop can affect the flavor of your mead. I haven't personally had it happen to any of mine because I don't let it sit on it too long. As soon as it's done fermenting, I like to get it off within a week.
Then how do you store it after that? Do you strain it or do you just pour it?
I don't strain it. After it's done fermenting, if I have bottles available, I'll put it into a bottle. If not, I'll put it into a carboy like I've done over there with my two others, and I'll just let them age in the carboys.
And as long as they're aging in those glass bottles that you've shown us previously, they'll last for about how long?
Forever. It's kind of like alcoholic drinks. Like,
do they get stronger the longer they set?
They don't really get stronger. The yeast determines how strong they get. Okay. So the yeast is going to get to a point to where eventually there's going to be so much alcohol inside of the container, it's going to kill itself. And that's where you start getting the lees. It's the yeast poop and the dead yeast and everything like that. And that's actually when fermentation stops. When all the yeast is dead, fermentation stops. I think I got like another 30 seconds on this.
As far as the shelf life of mead, if I remember right, an excavation team actually found mead in the pyramids that was still drinkable.
Yep.
I've read about that to where they've showed that mead was still good, and honey, as long as it was well preserved, it was still good, like as if it had no expiration date.
That's right. It only gets better with age.
And who was the guinea pig?
Is to make a sack mead. Now here, I'm going to go into the different types of mead for you for a second. A sack mead is very strong, lots of alcohol, like a dry mead, but it's still sweet. I want to make a sack mead that's been aged in an oak barrel. And I think that'll give it a nice flavor, nice taste. Okay, so you guys saw how, I don't know if you saw it or not, but there was like yeast all the way up in here, kind of caked in it. And now that I've shooken it up, kind of see how it's not clear anymore? How it's nice and opaque. No light really gets through it at all. I don't know. Can y'all still see it? No? Okay. There. Light doesn't really get through it. It's the color of the honey. It's completely dissolved, basically. Not dissolved, but mixed in there. There's no honey left sitting at the bottom of the jug. And there's nice, lots of bubbles. So I'm going to take the cap off. I'm going to put my balloon on it. Now I got to open the balloon bag.
Just by curiosity, because after watching this, I feel like going out and making my own. How long would that jug take to fully ferment to where the balloon goes back down?
About 2 weeks.
Okay, roughly about 2 week time.
Yep. If you put more yeast in there, it'll take a little longer. If you put less yeast in there, it'll take a little shorter. So I got a thumbtack right here. I don't know if y'all can see it. But you take said thumbtack and you take said balloon and you give it a nice, good, solid poke in the very tip top. And it's more difficult than it sounds. All right. Now you got the hole poked into the top. Kind of want to ring it around a little bit because you want to make sure there's an open hole that's big enough for gas to escape, but small enough so pesky contaminants don't get in. Now I'm able to get that in and out pretty easy. So you're just gonna open it up. Wow, 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 wow. Open it up.
Ken says we can do without the porno music, man.
Right? You're going to spread it out, and you're going to put it around, just around the tip. And you have a jug condom. And there you go. It's going to sit like this on my counter. You're going to want to leave it on your counter for the first 24 hours, just so you can make sure that fermentation is started. Between an hour and 24 hours, fermentation will start, and CO2 will start to be released, and this balloon is going to inflate to be like this big. And that's because of all the CO2 in it. And it's okay, and it's fine. I recommend putting a little rubber band right around here just so it holds its shape no matter what. Because if you get really active yeast and it makes a lot of CO2, it can blow the top off. And if you've already put it in your closet or wherever it is and you're not checking it daily, then your mead has just sat open for 2 weeks. And you know, anything rogue that got in there, flies, gnats, dust, a rat, you know, will have tainted your mead. So it's the very little simple things that can make it all a lot better. That about wraps it up for actually doing it. It's pretty simple. It was probably took me, what, 20 minutes to do that, guys? It's like $1 a minute. For every dollar you spend, it's going to be a minute you're doing it. So,
Awesome job, dude. Thank you.
yeah. These 2 bottles of 1.5 pounds honey cost $8 a piece. So 16 bucks. This active yeast jar cost me about $3, and that jug of water was 98 cents. So, I mean, it's that cheap to start making mead. Now, before I completely kill the class, let me find something completely clear. I want to show y'all the mead I bought from the store and the mead I got that I made. I'm going to use these 2. I use these for my boats. They're nice. I stole them from a hospital. It's horrible. I stole it from a hospital. All right.
They were permanently contaminated by the pudding, dude.
What's that? What's that?
I said they were permanently contaminated by the hospital pudding, dude.
No, I sanitize them with my Easy Clean first. I know what I'm doing. Unless that's a joke and I'm taking you too literal.
It was a joke, but the reply actually works, so don't worry about it.
All right, so I'm going to do a little selfless advertising for a second here. Because what's a class without advertising? Redstone Meadery. These guys make some really awesome mead, and it comes in a really nice bottle. And I'm going to salvage this bottle once it's done. And it comes with a nice little stopper at the top. So, when you're looking for clarity in your mead when it's all said and done, I don't know if y'all can see this. Can y'all see it?
I need to move back a little bit. There we
How's
go.
that? All right, so the mead, it's kind of like an apple juice color. It's very clear. If anything, it's just like there's a little colored screen and you can see completely through it, like colored glass. That's kind of the clarity you're wanting to look for. It's not bad if your mead is really muddy. It's just something that people look at when they're making mead. They'll be like, how was your mead? Was it clear or was it muddy? Well, mine was very clear. It was so clear. It was like a crystal lake, man. It was awesome. And that's just something people look at.
Yeah, Jen says, you know we can hear you, right?
Yes, I know y'all can hear me. I'm just having a little fun. I mean, if I'm going to have y'all captive for 2 hours, I better make y'all smile a couple times. All right. And here's my mead. It's a little muddy. This is one of my oldest bottles that I did. I took an Old Forester whiskey bottle and I filled it up with mead about a year ago. So it's still a little muddy. It was from one of my first rackings, and I've been kind of drinking it ever since. It doesn't affect the taste. I'm going to pour this out, because you see how it's nice and kind of brown? I mean, I can't believe I'm going to pour this much out, because that means I have to drink it. This shit's strong. All That shit's strong.
Well, bring it over here. I'll drink it.
Like, I could smell the mead from the Redstone meadery when I poured it, but when I poured my mead, man, it just, like, tackled my nose. It is strong. All right. You see this? Yes, no?
Yep.
All right. So mine's a little bit more yellow in color. That's because I used Huisach honey for this mead I made. It was very yellow. It's very good. I love it. The clarity, I want to say it's about the same. Which one do y'all want me to drink first? Rocket Fuel or Redstone?
Always go for flavor first.
Screw it. Hit that rocket fuel. That way you don't bitch about the taste of the other one.
I do want to ask a question though, as somebody who's never drank it before. What exactly does like? Is there anything you can compare it to taste wise?
Eric, I'm drawing a blank. What could you compare me to?
I'm working it. Give me a second.
The mead is very unique in its flavor and its smell. You can smell the honey very clearly. It's like if you had taken this and you stuck your nose in it. That's kind of what it smells like, but with the ethanol alcohol like smell to it as well. And it kind of like makes mine kind of makes your nose hair up a little bit.
Have you ever had some of the liqueurs, like Drambuie or something along those lines?
Not really, no.
Amaretto, like honey amaretto.
That's I think that'd be pretty close.
Yeah.
I've
Really
had
good.
like Baron Jaeger, but that's about it.
What was it?
Baron Jaeger, the Jägermeister with the honey.
I don't know about Jägermeister since it's got that licorice tone to it.
Baron Jaeger
Well,
isn't like Jägermeister. It's a honey whiskey.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Possibly. I mean, I found
I
that.
haven't
Go ahead, Eric.
I haven't tasted that, so I can't compare the two. I would guess that that mead would be a much smoother and possibly slightly sweeter taste for your average mead than that.
Yeah.
But that's a guess since I haven't tried the honey whiskey.
I'm not trying to sound boastful, but from what little bit I remember of Baron Jaeger, it was good at first. After that, I got home.
Yeah, that's a great summation of Baron Jaeger.
How about wines? What wines do you like?
I don't drink wine. I'm mainly a whiskey or tequila type of person. Just
Okay.
So I was trying to
you and Jen
figure
together
out-
with the tequila bottle. She's back there
No.
licking her lips.
so I'm just trying to figure out if like the mead is like if it's just mainly you taste the alcohol or do you taste like the alcohol mixed with the honey?
It's alcohol mixed with the honey.
Okay.
You get a good
Definitely.
you get a good taste of both.
Just a quick question. The way you made your mead, say that somebody was, like you were saying earlier, to add a little bit of vanilla, cinnamon, or whatever, is that all you would have to do to make it a flavored mead other than your just average traditional?
Yeah. So I like to call traditional mead sack mead for me because I like to really
Sound fancy?
yeah. But it's really just traditional. I don't have any extra, I don't think. There it is.
Now, do you need to use the extracts to give it the flavor? Or
No, stay away from the extracts. So for my cinnamon mead, I actually took 2 sticks of this cinnamon right here. I bought it organic from HEB, and I put them in there. And I bought a vanilla I don't know what you would call it. I bought like the whole vanilla bean from online, and I split it down the middle so all the seeds were exposed, and I put that into my vanilla mead, just one.
So if I was to do that and say add those frozen berries that you would find at HEB or Walmart, would it turn into like a fruit mead more or less, or does it work differently with whole fruit?
With whole fruit, no, it works the same. I wouldn't use the frozen because I don't know. Eric, what do you think about using frozen?
I've seen a lot of people get better success than you would think with the frozen. And when it's that time of year, I'll use it. I've got blackberries off my bushes out back in my freezer right now that I would use for a mead. But the whole berry is usually what folks put in, and then in the first racking, you have to be very conscious of straining that stuff out.
Yeah, you want to make sure that, okay, so here's, like you were saying with the cheesecloth earlier, when you rack this honey that we've made, when this is all said and done, you can put like a cheesecloth over it, and you can pour it into another empty jug. You can sanitize that other jug before you pour your meat in there. I would do that.
Okay, but you would want to strain it out as far as the fruit itself. You wouldn't want to leave anything in like that.
Yeah, aside from just the fruit, you're going to
cinnamon
have
and
the lees at the bottom too, the yeast poop and everything. So
Yeah.
you want to make sure that doesn't get into it as well. It's okay to lose some of the mead to avoid getting that crap into your new one. God, that meat is so strong.
And with the fruit, you have extra mold and bacteria issues. You don't want to leave it in much past the fermentation, end of fermentation. That's about when you want to get that out, because there are a lot of different flavors you can add to mead. Some of them you add in at the end, like certain spices. Some of them you add in at the beginning of fermentation. It depends on what you're using, but trust me, someone's experimented with something. Someone's out there probably experimented with dog toenail mead. I'm not kidding. They've tried everything, I'm sure.
I've had great ginger mead.
That sounds good. I actually have a juniper berry mead going right now. Skyrim inspired.
I'm a little offended by the ginger mead. That's kind of cannibalism for me now.
I think this is a compliment.
Nice,
Well, when
sweet, tastes like honey, doesn't kick you in the back of the throat. That's Redstone. I think that is a good baseline for anyone's mead. If you're trying to aim for something, Redstone makes a pretty good sweet mead. Or they also make a good dry mead. Eric, gonna put you in there too.
hey, I can't help it.
Skull, everybody. Mead.